Hello and welcome. So today I'm taking you for a walk along the beach. And why this beach? This is the beach, or beaches. These are the beaches of Dunkirk. It was here from this beach and along this part of the coast that the evacuation of Dunkirk took place, the end of May to the beginning of June 1940. The Dunkirk perimeter indeed can be seen from where I am right now. I'm here at the very center of the evacuation area. This is the town of Bray Dunes, which is the northernmost town in France. All of France, including the overseas territories as well. I think it's worth pointing out. Over there, you can see Dunkirk, and I'm going to bring the camera in so you can see it. Sorry, it's not very clear, but it's that is Dunkirk itself. And now I'm going to take you the other way. Not very clear at all. Let's take some time in focusing. And up there you can see that is now Belgium. It's towards Dupan. What's it called? I think it's Dupan. I forgot the name of it now. And so that was more or less the entire perimeter. So now the perimeter itself was the final position to be held was on the other side of the port at Dunkirk. Port at Dunkirk was largely destroyed. It wasn't able to be used. That's why they had to use the beaches. But then again, the port of Dunkirk, even today, there's no way it could have handled this huge amount of traffic. Operation Dynamo. I mean, but the more I think about it, the more incredible it actually seems to me that so many people could have been taken off these beaches here in such a small amount of time, with the facilities you can see out there. Now, one thing they did was they actually made breakwaters through using vehicles which today lorries are quite expensive, but then for the times they were far more expensive than they are now. They actually also used ships to actually form breakwaters as well. And not only that, the perimeter itself, the outer perimeter was held along a line of a canal, and the canal is not very far from where we are right now. Absolutely incredible that this could have been done. Now, Operation Dynamo is well known, everybody's heard of it, but there's another one called Operation Aerial, and the Aerial took off approximately half of what Dynamo, again half as much, and this was at various other ports along the coast. So this evacuated number one in that case was British, and number two was actually Polish, and the third one was French, but all sorts of other areas as well. I might even do a very short video on that when it actually comes to it. But I don't really want to talk about Dynamo or Aerial, but what I do want to talk about is how it got to this condition, the reason that it ended up like this, with this utterly brilliant attack. 10th of May, the attack goes through. They've got to the sea by the 25th of May, so 15 days. So it's utterly brilliant. And then the race up the coast from Abbeville to Boulogne, then to Calais, and then getting here. I think I have this theory that in part what happened here was the result of policies that were aimed come from the colonial past of France and the it's what it saw its main enemies being, which interestingly enough wasn't Germany, but Italy. Now, in the First World War, a lot of French men were killed, and so more so than, for example, in Germany. Now, before the First World War, was a problem with being more men being born in Germany than were being born in France. So that meant to say that it was perceived as being a military shortage when times would get better. Sorry, not when times get better. In the event of a war. So, this also is perceived to be the case. Now, after the war, France took an attitude towards Germany which was far more aggressive than was, for example, the United Kingdom. When the Germans failed to pay part of the reparations, France occupied the Ruhr. The Belgians helped them out, but in the United Kingdom, the British were quite disgusted at this. So in a certain extent, this sort of broke off a great deal of the friendship that existed throughout the war between Britain and France. Indeed, it needs to be borne in mind and remembered that the United Kingdom went to war almost immediately in support of Belgium on in August 1914. And yet, less than 10 years later, well under 10 years later, there was this split because of the way Germany was being treated. Nonetheless, Belgium remained very friendly with the French. Unfortunately, this wasn't to last, and this was to have a major consequence. The King, Leopold, he decided that in the 30s, Belgium was going to be neutral, and like many pacifists, even today, he seem to think, well, if he doesn't have an army that's worth considering, no one's going to attack him. I mean, it's incredibly stupid. I even see this in the comment section when I've done things about Ukraine. There are people who are so imbecilic as to believe that if you don't protect yourself, then nobody is going to attack you. So why not just take this to the logical thing? Why lock your car? Why lock your house? No one's going to steal anything from you if you leave everything open. I think it's the same sort of argument, particularly if you live in a dodgy neighborhood. And indeed, with Nazi Germany clearly showing that it's openly stating, anybody could just read Mein Kampf, it was available, openly stating that living space has to be obtained. And so Hitler was quite clear about what his aims were. Nonetheless, a large part of the Belgian defence budget went on building fortresses, above all Emel, and I did a series of videos on it when I was there, and I'll give you a link to it below. The videos I did from when I was there, though, are it was done quite a number of years ago. The strange thing, Eben Emael, which took up so much of the Belgian budget, when the battle took place there, it fired off, if I remember rightly, 133 rounds. That was it. That's all it did. Anyway, next problem, I'll get on to the French similar problem in a moment. Next problem, I would have to say that France still had colonial wars. Above all, the Rif War, which took place in Morocco, took up a huge amount of resources. And that's something I think very clearly has to be borne in mind. Also, it faced a revolt in Syria, where Maxime Weygand, who showed himself to be didn't have a clue in 1940, but 15 years earlier he acted very quickly against the rebels in Syria. May have killed as many as 1,500 people in Damascus, for example. And I think that these two wars also ought to be taken into consideration when considering what happened with the lack of preparedness and the lack of resources for the army. But to take it even further than that, after Mussolini came to power, there were certain people, above all in the French Admiralty, that decided they had to protect the overseas areas, the North Africa in particular. One of these things was the construction of a completely new base at Mers el Kebir, because it was decided that Toulon is in close bombing range of the Italians, so a new Mediterranean base is needed. But if you've got a new Mediterranean base like that, it all has to be paid for. Instead of spending money, for example, on aircraft and anti-aircraft defences, they chose to go the much more expensive route of building a new port. And also on the Italian border between Libya, Italian, and Tunisia, the Maginot Line was built. Now again, the Maginot Line, which incidentally since 2022 is now a protected monument or series of monuments in Tunisia. So congratulations to the Tunisian government for doing that. The Maginot Line was built against an enemy which was not really that much of a threat in that location at that time. Of course, it's very easy to say, well, we know now the loading capacity was of the ports in North Africa because of what happened during the Second World War, but and that is true. Italy was perceived as a potential enemy even before the attack on Abyssinia in 1935. But anyway, so the Maginot Line was built from 36 to 1940. It did, of course, play a major role in the Second World War. There was a commission, which was Italian and German, which oversaw the dismantling or demilitarization of the Maginot Line in 1940. And then, as Montgomery approached towards in the beginning of 1943, then the battles of the Maginot Line took place in March of 43. Took the British about 12 days, about 2 weeks, let's say, to actually break through. So it did clearly have some military use, but given the circumstances that existed at the time, then, in my opinion, those resources could have been put somewhere else. Now, André Maginot is noted for giving his name to a line of fortifications. He was a French politician. He'd taken part in the First World War. He'd been wounded a couple of times, even quite seriously, and he was the Minister of Defence in the latter part of the 1920s. He was born in 1877 in Paris, and he died in 1932 of typhoid fever. I mention this because I've been meaning to do a video on typhoid fever longer than any other video, because it's very important, because the word typhoid fever is typhus in German, and the word typhus in English is not actually often understood. But anyway, that's a subject, if I ever get onto it, of doing, but that is, of course, that's relevant when I'm talking about things related to the Holocaust, particularly the ghettos, particularly the Warsaw Ghetto above all. Anyway, so André Maginot, and it was under his watch that the idea of fortifications came. So the biggest threat was perceived to be Italy. So the Maginot Line, it's the line on the Alps which was built first. Now, the thing about the Maginot Line is that unlike other forms of military spending, that even those who were on the left in the Parliament were more or less in favour of the Maginot Line. And the reason for this is because it would create a lot of jobs. So at a time when in the 1920s, okay, we still hadn't had the depression of the 30s, but that a lot of work was needed doing the physical labour necessary to actually build it. Now, the initial part was built, started construction, started even before Hitler came to power, but the idea was to actually incorporate Belgium in it. But when the Belgian king decided that he was going to be a pacifist, and his pacifism would mean that no war was going to happen, then that put a stop to that. Now, it was proposed, of course, that the Maginot Line be continued in along the Belgian border. Some positions were actually built, but it wasn't actually done. Now, the thing with the Maginot Line is this, that it took up 1.8% of the entire government spending from 1930 to 1936. It was said that in these fortresses that many men had it much better than they had at home. It was that good in the Maginot Line. So therefore, what does that tell us? That, okay, it was very luxurious. You can see there's even film from the time. You see the underground trains and all the rest of it. But it seems a bit of a joke that the Germans just walked around it. And the reason they were just able to just walk around it, it's not just because of the Ardennes. It was recognized by the French even in the 1930s that an attack could come through the Ardennes. It's absolutely clear. But it was believed by those in power and the generals who are always fighting the previous war and not the next one, that this could be held by using positions which were similar to those which were used in the First World War. So, on the whole, the lack of preparation from Belgium, the Belgian government, like many governments from the 1930s, bears a great deal of responsibility for what actually happened. The Polish government from 1936 to 39 bears a great deal of responsibility for its policies, and which were pro-Nazi and in the interwar period. This is all part of the patchwork, or this is what happens when individual countries think that they can have their own policy for standing up to dictators, which as a rule doesn't work. Now, it's also worth bearing in mind is that the people in power make up the establishment elite in those countries, and it's not them that suffer, it's the people below them that actually suffers as a result. And of course we can say exactly the same thing today as far as Russia's concerned. Now, so the point of all of this is that the French army was outdated. The British army, and these beaches here that you can see right now in front of us, the motorised part of the British army ended up here. There were only two motorised armies in the world at the beginning of the Second World War, the United States and the British. The German army wasn't even motorised at the end of the war. And but the extent of the defeat was such, it wasn't just that the amount of materials and supplies that had to be destroyed, huge amounts. There's a unit of the British Army, I can't remember which one it was, but in its report it says proudly that the men got onto the ships with their rifles. It was so they had them. Most people didn't actually have them. There's also another interesting account that I read. Marc Bloch, who was a captain in the French army, and he wrote about the defeat. He describes being here, and he describes what he terms a Kafkaesque scene of the there's a war going on. They can hear the explosions and everything, but there's men on the beach waiting to be evacuated who are sunbathing. They've taken their shirt off and they're lying in the sun. And at the end of the day, what else could they do? Waiting to be evacuated. obviously now it's middle of October, so it looks a bit different to what it did then. So the whole point of this is that when they paid for all of these bases, when they paid for all of these fortifications, there was no money left to do things that were really needed. I do appreciate things like the French did produce a tank. The French tanks were possibly even better than the German ones. But the thing is this, is what the Germans managed to do was very successfully combine arms and the use of radios, and thus the use of intelligence. Whereas French tanks had to use semaphore, or they had Morse code things, the Germans could talk to each other. So spotter planes can see a potential target, and then they can form the artillery, and the artillery can hit that target really quickly. That, I suppose you could say, is tactics more than anything else. But the fact of the matter is that in many areas the Germans utterly outshone both the British and the French, and allowing for the disaster or miracle, whichever way you want to look at it, that happened on these beaches to happen then. Anyway, good. So I was thinking of this one. I came here last night. Well, yesterday afternoon, it was still light when I turned up, and so now I'm on my way to Dunkirk, and then I've got to go to Birmingham in the United Kingdom. And I was thinking of this. Well, I'm here. I've got it's a Sunday, big beaches to show you. Why not do a video on Dunkirk? And I thought, well, maybe the thing is, I don't really know enough about it. What I do know about is the circumstances that led to Dunkirk, and I hope I've explained that. I hope I've made my point relatively clear. It's because money was spent on fighting the previous war and not the next one. Anyway, good. So I upload every day now at 2000 hours. So I do a couple of types of videos. I do things like this where I'm sort of walking and talking, and I'm doing this without any notes. So I'm just and I'm trying to ignore what's happening around me. Here, fortunately, as you can see, nothing's happening around me at all. Nothing. So I've got all of this to myself. I even thought that today the wind would be bothering me. But sometimes I'm walking and talking, there's lots of things happening around me, which is quite different. Yesterday I was walking through the street and talking, and so not having the notes, I can of course make mistakes. But anyway, if you found this of interest, then you might want to see other videos. I also do documentary videos where I'm not walking and talking. I've sat down, written the script, and then I can and then I give you a bit of film, possibly from a video like this, or film what places look like today. I deliberately go to places when I'm traveling. I deliberately go to visit them because of something that actually happened there in the past, which is interesting for my period, which is largely the Second World War, Nazi period and the Communist period, Second World War, Holocaust. That's what you'll find on this channel as a rule. There you can see now the port of Dunkirk is much clearer. And there's somebody on the beach on a bike. Wow. That is very impressive. That he can cycle, and look, somebody else doing it as well. Admittedly, it's not particularly soft where I am, and they're obviously closer to the sea, and it's going to be even further. Incidentally, here there are places where you can see some shipwrecks. There's one called the Crested. Oh, I can't remember. Crested Heron, I think was the name of the ship, and there's the Buraski, which sank. It was hit on the 31st of May, and 2/3 of the people on it drowned, which also I think the Borowski part of it can actually be seen. But I even noticed actually on Google Maps there were places that like it could see, and it does say only when the tide is low. Now this morning I came out here for a walk, but I checked the tides, and because I left, it said 4 o'clock was high tide, and I thought, oh no, I left that one. I did that one at the wrong time. Yeah, there's a big difference though from when I was out this morning where the sea is now. But anyway, I can't actually see any. Maybe it needs a certain time of the day when the sun in a certain position. A bit like the White Cliffs of Dover, you can only see them at a certain time of day from where you are in France. And I've never seen the shoreline of France. I don't think I have from Britain. I don't think I have. I'm not certain. I might have a video of it actually. But I came out this morning because I wanted to see the bird life at dawn, and there wasn't any. Good. So, thank you for being here. All the best from me in northern France. Bye for now.